All right, so right off the bat, I'm going to pull out this graph that I just made, this bar graph, and you're going to see it's the world population with respect to the year and the population at the given time. And experts predict, at least estimate right now, that the world population is about 7.8 billion people, just a little bit over the 7 there. And in 2023, it's going to reach about 8 billion people, so right up there. And you're going to see that it's just a steady increase. But in the long run, scientists are saying in about 2100 here, it's going to be about 10 to 12 billion people up here. And you'll notice if you're observant of this complex graph, there's a red line of death right at 10 billion. And that red line of death is actually a representation of when the Earth will reach its carrying capacity for the human race. And if you know anything about science and ecosystems, that's a very bad thing when a carrying capacity gets reached. It'll end up in other organisms dying off. Nature will re-regulate the entire ecosystem by whatever means possible in order to fix things so it reaches equilibrium / sustainability, anything you want to say like that. And mankind, or the human race, is not letting nature take its course in reality, because we're doing things like charities, we're food banks, where we're giving food and water and supplies to people who without us would die off in these third world countries, for example. And I'm going to explain, hopefully in this speech, why that's a bad thing, because we're going to reach this carrying capacity, and it's going to lead to things like famine, wars, like genocide. I mean, it's pretty. I think I have a pretty good. The reader hopefully has a pretty good guess as to what the human race will do when resources become scarce. But first, let me just introduce myself. I'm Matthew Stark, and this is going to be my case against charity. I'm going to go through 3 points. I'm going to base them all from Hardin's stance that we ought not to donate to the poor, because in the long run, it's going to help out humankind stay away from the dreadful carrying capacity. So, first point I'm going to bring up is lifeboat ethics, and just really quickly I'm going to run through it. If you're on a ship, ship sinks, you got to hop on a lifeboat. You hop on a lifeboat with 50 other people. The capacity of that lifeboat is 60 people. You hop in the lifeboat, you get lowered down in the water, you're swimming around, or you're floating around, and there's 100 people in the water around you that didn't get lifeboats, and they're swimming and they're flying for their life because they're about to die unless you let them on the lifeboat. And they're begging you to get on the lifeboat. Well, the reality is, are you going to let them on the lifeboat? I mean, you can maybe get 10 more on there. Who knows? As it reaches closer and closer, something could happen, and boom, it capsize, and you're all dead. Or you let them all drown, and you're like, screw you guys. There's 100 people in the water that all die, while me and my 49 other friends are staying afloat. And you can kind of see what I'm getting at here, and what Hardin's getting at, and that is, third world countries are the people in the water, or people that can't survive on their own, and first world countries and people who are sustainable in sustainable communities are the ones who are on the lifeboat. Now, as you can see here, helping out these countries is actually putting us at jeopardy, or in the situation of the lifeboat. If I help someone up onto my lifeboat, then we're getting closer and closer to that carrying capacity, and once we reach that carrying capacity, there's no picking and choosing. We're all going to die, or it's going to be just random all over the place, dead, 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 dead. In the case of lifeboat, everyone's dead, okay? So that's the issue there with the lifeboat ethics that Hardin's trying to argue here, is when we're helping out these communities, when we're giving our resources that we have to them, it's actually going to really hurt us in the long run because it puts everybody at jeopardy, okay? So that's just one point. And now I'm going to transition into my favorite point, because I have a personal example for this, is the tragedy of the commons. So in my town up in Massachusetts, there was a argument for a community garden, okay? So it was in the middle of town. It was like you could grow your tomatoes, you grow really whatever you wanted to do there. And it was open to the public. And in the first year, it shut down. And it shut down because nobody really cared for it at all, okay? Because when you just give it all out and you make it free for everybody and anyone can access it, it takes away that personal responsibility and that drive to take care of it. And the contradiction to that community garden that's in my town in Massachusetts is my dad's lawn. My dad will spend hours, like days, working on that lawn throughout the week. And it's because he has a sense of pride in owning his land. there's no pride in something that's where the ownership is dispersed and is thrown out. And I'm gonna relate this to Hardin here, or not Hardin actually, but economist William Easterly in a paper that I read relating to the tragedy of the commons, where it's saying we're looking at in 1980 and 1990 when we were donating our food and resources to Africa, third world countries. It was at an all-time high in the 1980s and 1990s. And the reality was they were worse off. And that's what the whole paper goes over, if you want to go into that. But those countries are doing worse and worse, and their economies are failing, and there are more people dying, because what's actually happening is when these governments and these people in these countries, if we're always like, here's money, here's money, here's money, they don't have any responsibility to serve the best interest of the people. They're just like, the money's going to keep on coming. Let's just do what we want to do. And it's not helping out the country in the long run, because it's leading to acting in your own self-interest. You don't have to you don't have to make decisions like based on, well, the people like me if I make the decision. No, you don't, because the money's still coming in. And or the money and the food in this case. So really, that's just was one example. We can't afford just have these handouts, because over time it's going to lead to corruption, and it's proven that it was actually led to things being worse off in Easterly's paper. Now I'm just going to slide right into the last point that I'm trying to make here. And that's the ratchet effect. Now, relating back to what I just said a little while ago, when Earth reaches carrying capacity, it's going to be catastrophic. Okay? And when we donate this money and we save lives and we save these people in these third world countries, and the population keeps on going and going up and they're not dying, it's just loading up. And when the food bank, as one person put it that I remember reading about, it's not sustainable. When we run out of resources, all of that power that pressure that's building up, it's just going to pop. It's going to pop off, and it's going to be horrible. Like, insane famine, insane death rates, okay? It's going to be an absolute catastrophe. It really is, and it's because we're just keep on putting it off. Keep on putting it off. It's like we're putting off a paper until the hour before it's due, and then we're frantically trying to fix it, and we don't get it in on time. We fail. That's what this is kind of what's becoming. The ratchet effect, that's what it really means, if you're going with the ratchet. It's going to be really, really bad if we just keep on going against Earth, nature taking a course, and we're right there, it's going against each other. It's going to keep on pushing it back, and then eventually it's going to snap. Not a good thing, okay? So let me just conclude what I just went over. Hardin has argued in his paper about lifeboat ethics, saying that it really jeopardizes everyone if we help out these communities. He's argued about the tragedy of the commons, showing, and actually proven in the other paper, showing that we need a sense of personal responsibility and ownership in order to really succeed and thrive. And we're also talking about the ratchet effect, which is, this is not sustainable. What we're doing is not sustainable, okay? It's going to explode. And all these things are happening because we're donating to the poor. And initially it looks nice, and it's the right thing to do, and it's the Catholic thing to do. But in the end, it's just going to become the end of all of us, okay? Charity accelerates our demise. And Hardin has shown that through numerous analogies and reasoning. And really, I have to ask the reader at this point, what do you think you would do in this situation? Would you keep on donating to charity, knowing that in the end, in the future, in 2100 probably, with your grandkids, they're going to have to deal with catastrophic famine, stuff like that? Would you keep on donating to charity? Because it's the morally right thing to do is the issue here. And hopefully I got the reader thinking about that through this speech. And that's all I have to say today, so I'm going to sign off here. Thank you for listening.